On today's episode of Locked On Oilers, new lines as the Oilers face the Coyotes, and an interesting name gets a promotion. We will talk about that and much more on today's episode of Locked On Oilers.
You're Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Oilers podcast. I'm your host and former Oilers game day producer, Brett Holden. As mentioned on today's episode, we're going to be going through the lines. There's a little bit of jumbling going on for the Oilers in the not the top six, in the forward group, I should say, as we will preview the matchup against the Arizona Coyotes. Also on today's episode, we're going to be talking about Jesse Puljujarvi versus Klim Kostin. A little bit of overlap between the two of them, but which one would you keep? We have some of the underlying stats that may be swaying your decision here. And then we will wrap up with the Oilers, Ghost of Oilers Past, as this one almost won the Oilers a Stanley Cup championship. There's your hint. All that will be on today's episode of Locked On Oilers. Thank you so much for making Locked On Oilers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you find your podcast. Alrighty, let's start off with the lines for the Oilers as we have a little bit of a new look for the Oilers here. Zach Hyman is back in the lineup for the Oilers as he will be on the first line with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Matthias Janmark on the second line with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Kyler Yamamoto. Dylan Holloway alongside James Hamblin. Yes, James Hamblin, who is playing on the fourth line, gets the promotion to the third line center. So we will talk about him in just a second. Jesse Puljujarvi is on the right wing for that one. Klim Kostin goes down to the fourth line with Devin Shore and Derek Ryan. The Oilers defense stays the same as Darnell Nurse lines up with Cody Ceci. Brett Kulak and Tyson Barrie will go up again with each other. Philip Broberg and Evan Bouchard make up the third pairing. And Stuart Skinner gets the start for the Edmonton Oilers tonight. Now, the interesting thing here, as mentioned, James Hamblin is on the third line for the Oilers. And Jay Woodcroft said something interesting about Hamblin as he did coach him down in Bakersfield. He knows what he has in Hamblin. He knows he's watched him and coached him for a long time now, or a good chunk of time now. And he has played center for Jay Woodcroft and has obviously shown that he can trust him at the major league level. Now, Dylan Holloway at the same time also has a little bit of chemistry with him. And at the end of the game there, Jay Woodcroft again said something that I was thinking and put it in a better way, but the Edmonton Oilers didn't really have the legs in that game against the Washington Capitals. Except for Dylan Holloway, as he looked fresh, he looked like he had good legs. I wonder why. But he's getting a chance here. I'm very interested to see what he can do. Now, Klim Kostin is on the fourth line. I sit there and I go, I don't really care, to be honest with you. I think that one's just a little bit of a... I think he'll play more than you think. I think you will. Devin Shore and Derek Ryan. I'm excited about that line, to be honest with you. I'm excited about this forward core in general because I'm really excited to see the dirty work both of these, all of these players, can do. And I think it's going to be a grind 'em out game for the Oilers against the Coyotes. They're coming off a 14-game road trip. This is the last game of the 14-game road trip until they're back finally at their university campus. I'm hoping the Oilers can really take it to them genuinely. And that sounds bad to say, I think. But the Oilers need a game where they just put the foot on the pedal and just go. The Arizona Coyotes only have 7 wins on the year, 14 losses, and you're sitting there going, oh my goodness, that the Oilers have 14 wins this year. And the Arizona Coyotes started the year with a very, very potent power play. At one point, it was like third in the league to start off the year. Now it's tapered off and is only 17th in the league with this 22.1 percentage. Does that have to do with the fact that they have been far away from home? Yes, absolutely. But then at the same time, their penalty kill is at 19th in the league and 76.8% there. Again, this is a team that's been on the road for 14 games. They have been away from home. They've had to eat out all the time. Dylan Guenther is going to be playing for his first time in Edmonton since playing here with the Edmonton Oil Kings. And like he said, he's been... he was able to see some family and during this trip, and finally him and his roommate was able to go over to his parents' place and have a home-cooked meal. He joked saying, me and my roommate haven't been able to do that for a very long time. So those little things. Zach Kassian, who will be playing in his first game since being traded to the Arizona Coyotes from the Edmonton Oilers, said a very similar thing. You're eating out all the time. Even he said, I don't even think my kids are going to recognize me by the time I come home. That is, it's a tough trip for the Arizona Coyotes. It's the last one, though, before they're able to get home. All these games matter now for the Oilers. You know what you got. You know what the Oilers need to do. You have your evaluation period done. Now it's time to put your foot to the pedal, and this is the best opportunity the Oilers have in doing so. Do it. Go take advantage of a beaten and battered team. Yes, you are also a beaten, battered team, but they're beaten and battered in a different way. They are exhausted, I'm sure, of all the traveling, always on a plane, always on a bus, always moving, never really living out of a suitcase, never really settling into a place. Just take advantage of this team. Stuart Skinner, as mentioned, will get the start in goal for the Oilers, and Connor Ingram will get the start for the Arizona Coyotes. No, not Kara Vejmelka, which is kind of too bad. I always like watching Vejmelka. I think he's a very underrated goaltender. Let's move on to, again, that puck drop is at 7:30 in Edmonton, at Rogers Place. I don't know. As mentioned, I just want the Oilers to really step on the gas. Let's move on to Jesse Puljujarvi versus Klim Kostin. A little bit of a debate here, as I see a lot of similar tendencies between the two of them, but an interesting article came out from Jesse Puljujarvi, or for Jesse Puljujarvi, on Jesse Puljujarvi, and it kind of puts things in perspective. So let's have a little bit of a debate between Klim Kostin and Jesse Puljujarvi and see who kind of has an edge a little bit here for the Edmonton Oilers. That'll come up in just a second, but first, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, news, stats, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball, soccer, and even esports. They've got it all at BetOnline. I also wonder what the odds were after Aaron Judge was going to the Giants. Wink, wink, nod, nod. John Heyman. But also, if you love sports podcasts, which if you're listening to this podcast, you probably do, they've got those at BetOnline as well. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Alrighty, let's move on to Jesse Puljujarvi and Klim Kostin. Is a worrying article a little bit came out on Jesse Puljujarvi today, and it doesn't instill a lot of positivity. Jesse Puljujarvi said to a Finnish reporter that has been translated, and now I believe it was Mark Spector wrote an article on Sportsnet about it. And like he said, 1 goal in 20 games isn't good enough, and he's starting to wonder if his future is in the NHL. And that's worrying for a guy who doesn't have a lot of confidence, and for himself to say, I don't know if I belong in this league, is not good. It is not good at all. In 26 games so far this year, Jesse Puljujarvi has 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points, And Klim Kostin in 10 games this year, 10 goals, 1 assist, no goal, or 1 goal, excuse me. Hello. 1 goal, no assist, 1 point for him. The interesting thing too is that his goal came in the 7th game of the season, or 7th game for him as an Edmonton Oiler, and Jesse Puljujarvi's goal came as the 7th goal, or 7th game of the season. Wow, words are fun today. Now, the interesting thing right now is that Klim Kostin is doing the thing that Jesse Puljujarvi was doing last year that kept him in a positive light, that kept the fighters, which included me. I should probably preface all of this by saying I am one of Jesse Puljujarvi's biggest supporters. I wanted him on the Edmonton Oilers when he was 16 years old. Once the Columbus Blue Jackets drafted Pierre-Luc Dubois out of Cape Breton, I screamed. I was excited. I knew what was coming next. The Oilers were going to pick Puljujarvi at 4, and they did. And I was pumped. Scored in his first NHL game against the Calgary Flames. But it hasn't been the same. And now Klim Kostin is coming in here and doing a lot of good in the underlying stats. Now, if you've been listening for a little while, you know that my favorite stat, advanced stat, because I'm not an analytic guy whatsoever, is the goals for and goals against per 60 minutes. And those two numbers at 5-on-5 and goal in all situations are very different for each player. Jesse Puljujarvi is currently sitting at 5-on-5 goals against per 60 minutes at a 3.52, which is good for 20th on the Edmonton Oilers. Klim Kostin, second at 5-on-5 with a 1.2. Now, in all situations, Klim Kostin has a 1.18, good for first on the team. And Jesse Puljujarvi has a 3.36, which is good for 13th. These two players are doing very different things right now in the underlying stats. Well, really, they're doing two very different things in their own end. And one of them is working out, and the other one isn't. Let's keep digging deeper because, again, I'm not a big analytics guy, but these deeper stats are starting to tell a little bit more of a story. Let's take a look at the shots against per 60 minutes for each of these players. Jesse Puljujarvi has a 27.77 shots against per 60 minutes for the Edmonton Oilers, where Klim Kostin has a 27.08. They are virtually the exact same. Klim Kostin sits at first, and Jesse Puljujarvi sits at second. However, the save percentage for each player, or excuse me, let's actually start with the expected goals against per 60, and then we'll go to the save percentage for each player. The expected goals against for the Edmonton Oilers, for Jesse Puljujarvi right now, when he is on the ice, is at a 2.41, which is actually good for first on the Oilers. And again, he is allowing the second least amount of shots against while he is on the ice, and has the first highest, or the first lowest, I guess, expected goals against per 60. That tells you, you know what? Okay, that's pretty good. Klim Kostin, on the other hand, as mentioned, first on the team in expected goals against, Puljujarvi was second. Kostin is first, and his expected goals against average per 60, per 60 minutes is at a 2.94, which is good for fourth on the team. So, Klim Kostin's at fourth on the team in expected goals for. Puljujarvi's sitting at first at expected goals. Excuse me, I am all over the place here. Yes, Klim Kostin is sitting at fourth on the Edmonton Oilers when it comes to expected goals against per 60 minutes with that 2.94. And Jesse Puljujarvi is sitting at first on the team when it comes to those expected goals against However, they're sitting in very different places when it comes to the actual goals against per 60 minutes for the Edmonton Oilers. Again, Puljujarvi sitting in 20th and 13th at goals against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 and in all situations respectively. And Klim Kostin sits second and first in that same category at 5-on-5 and in all situations. And then you can take a look at the save percentage. Klim Kostin's save percentage while he is on the ice for the Edmonton Oilers, and that is your team's save percentage. The save percentage for Stuart Skinner and Jack Campbell when Klim Kostin and Jesse Puljujarvi are on the ice. The save percentage for Klim Kostin, a .956, which is second on the Edmonton Oilers. Jesse Puljujarvi, 871. Which is looking more like Jack Campbell's save percentage than Jesse Puljujarvi's. He sits 21st on the Edmonton Oilers. So they're allowing the exact same amount of shots against. They have almost the exact same expected goals against. Yet in real life, the goals against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 and in all situations are in Klim Kostin's favor by a lot. It's not like he's first and Puljujarvi's sixth or Kostin is third and Puljujarvi's eighth. This is monumentally different. And as mentioned, Puljujarvi sat there and goes, he doesn't even know his identity in the NHL right now. He doesn't know if he's a two-way player. He doesn't know if he's a goal scorer. He doesn't know if he's a defensive forward. He doesn't know. He doesn't know if he's a gritty guy, an enforcer. He doesn't know. That literally his words, not word for word, but that is what he's saying. He is now first on the Edmonton Oilers in hits with 60, 9 above Evander Kane, by the way, so take that as you will. And Klim Kostin is 13th on the Oilers with 23. However, let's put them all on the same baseline again when it comes to per 60 minutes. That is why I use per 60 minutes, because then you're put on the same level. Klim Kostin's only played 10 games, but you can average out and you can tell what each player is doing. Puljujarvi's played 26, which is 16 more than Kostin, but if you put them at 60 minutes, you're getting the same baseline. You're on the same level. Hits per 60 minutes for Klim Kostin is 13.86, which is good for third on the team. And Jesse Puljujarvi is at 9.98, which is good for sixth on the team. So in every way, right now, Klim Kostin is playing better than Jesse Puljujarvi, and they are playing a very similar situation, a very similar game. That's an issue. As mentioned, I am a big Jesse Puljujarvi supporter, and have been since he was drafted, and always will be. I think he needs a change of scenery. And I think somebody on Twitter said today, with like 6 followers, somebody that I normally wouldn't like go in and whatever, right? They went out and said somebody's burner account. That's more what I'm trying to say. Somebody's burner account. And they said Klim Kostin should be playing in the top 6. And I went, no. Then I looked at these numbers and thought, you know what? Why not? Puljujarvi's getting these opportunities, and he has played the third most amount of minutes with Connor McDavid, and he only has 6 points. I don't even think he got a point with Connor McDavid. The only other 2 players with more time with Connor McDavid are Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman. Shocker. I don't know. What would you do? But right now, I'm leaning Klim Kostin and Jesse Puljujarvi to move. I know a lot of people are not a big supporter of Jesse Puljujarvi, so let me know what you think. Either way, let's move into a little bit of nostalgia, as let's get into the ghost of Oilers past. And as mentioned, this one almost won the Oilers a Stanley Cup, but just missed out. We will talk about him in just a second, but first, thank you so much for making Locked On Oilers your first listen today. Now for your second listen, make sure you check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On experts can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you find your podcasts. Alrighty, let's get into the ghost of Oilers past. As this one, as mentioned, almost won the Oilers a Stanley Cup and came in relief for Dwayne Rolison in 2006. And that is UC Markkanen. No, not Ty Conklin. No Ty Conklin talk on this podcast, only UC Markkanen love, as he played 102 games as an Edmonton Oiler in his career, spent most of his time with the Oilers, except for a short stint in 2003-2004 with the New York Rangers. We'll talk about that move in just a bit, but as mentioned, 102 games played for him as an Oiler in total, 35 wins, 35 losses, 14 in overtime or as a tie. Have you ever heard of consistency, people? But in 2006, in that Stanley Cup final, he went 3-3 with a shutout in that Stanley Cup final, had a .905 save percentage and a 2.16 goals against average. His career high in wins came in 2005-2006, the year after the year the Oilers went to the Stanley Cup final, 15 wins, 12 losses, 6 overtime losses in that season. And then his best season when it came to save percentage came in 2001-2002. However, he only played 14 games. Either way, he had a .929 save percentage. I'm also going to add an 03-04 that year where he split between the Rangers and the Oilers. He had a .918 save percentage in 33 games there. Now, let's put the stats away. Let's get into the story. As UC Markkanen has a very interesting anecdote, as he was the player that was traded to the New York Rangers in exchange for the rights for Brian Leetch. Yes, on June 30th, 2003, the Edmonton Oilers sent UC Markkanen and a 4th-round pick to the New York Rangers for the rights to Brian Leetch. However, Brian Leetch never did sign with the Edmonton Oilers. I remember that summer, I was hoping, and it just unfortunately never happened. Now, later on that year, on March 3rd, 2004, the Edmonton Oilers would reacquire UC Markkanen from the New York Rangers alongside Peter Nedved. The Oilers acquired both UC Markkanen and Peter Nedved from the New York Rangers on March 3rd for Dwight Helmanen, Stephen Valiquette, I always get that wrong, Stephen Valiquette, and a 2nd-round pick. Then he would go on to finish his NHL career with the Edmonton Oilers. However, after that year, when he did finish his NHL career, he went on to Finland, which actually had a little bit of a controversy, as he did... At the time, well, he still does, but at the time of him going to Jokerit in the extra league or SM-Liiga, I think it's now the SM-Liiga. I think at the time it was the Finnish Elite League. But he was part owner of Saipa, which I know I'm saying wrong, I'm sure. But so he only played 1 year in Finland, at Jokerit. He played in 50 games, though, that year for Jokerit. 26 wins, 11 losses, 12 overtime losses. Had a 2.33 goals against average and a .925 save percentage. Pretty solid season for him there. However, then the following season, he would head over to Russia in the KHL. He would play for CSKA Moscow. 18 games played there, a 10-6-2 record with a 2.32 goals against average and a .903 save percentage. Then a couple of long stints with two long teams, one of them in Switzerland with EV Zug. 156 games for him in Zug. 99 wins, 55 losses, a 2.55 goals against average there. Couldn't find the save percentage yet. But Saipa, he would then finish his playing career with Saipa in 2017, 2018. He would play, a little bit. He spent 3 seasons with Saipa, then went to Zug. Well, he went to Zug for a while, then went to Saipa for 3 seasons, had 1 more year in Zug, and then finished his career in Saipa for 2 more seasons. So if you didn't like confusion, welcome to the confusion station. Either way, he would go on to play 164 total games with Saipa, 68 wins, 52 losses, and 35 overtime losses. Nowadays, Jussi Markkanen is just being the CEO he is for Saipa, as I found out by reading a press release from him, a statement that he had to make. So very active with Saipa, still active in the hockey community, so that's really good to see. And plus, his son is a prospect for the Los Angeles Kings. He was selected 114th overall, the 4th round of the 2020 draft by the Los Angeles Kings. So maybe we will see another Markkanen tending the net in the NHL. Let's wrap it up there as the Edmonton Oilers face off against the Arizona Coyotes tonight. Stuart Skinner getting the start in goal. Connor Ingram for the I almost said Colorado Avalanche. For the Arizona Coyotes, excuse me. Let's wrap it up there, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe. I shall see you tomorrow. And hopefully, at the end of this game against the Arizona Coyotes, we can play La Bamba, baby.